All right, please proceed.
Well, thanks. Minister, I want to pick up where we left off in the business plan on page 17. I read Key Strategy 3.6, and I'm going to read this out loud because I think this is an incredible statement. Develop and implement an innovative program in collaboration with Environment and Climate Change Canada to enhance carbon sequestration in Alberta's public forests. Wow. That's going to be some kind of program.
Isn't it? I know.
Now, could you enlighten us at all as to, are we going to genetically modify trees so that they sequester more carbon? You know, I'm having a real hard time wrapping my head around how a program can actually enhance carbon sequestration in Alberta's public forests. I think they do, you know, a pretty good job as it is, but a tree is a tree, and it's going to sequester a certain amount of carbon. Are we talking about doing something different to the trees to enhance the process, or what is this program that this key strategy speaks of?
Thank you, member. No, it's not you know, and no, there's not going to be any Franken trees out there. But what it does is that even the replanting of a young tree sequesters a lot more carbon than an older one that's not as growing as rapidly, obviously. So there's
does.
Other programs within there. I'm going to let ADM Mayor to fill in some of those things. But one of the things that we're looking at is being able to enhance more constructive methods around woods, being able to sequester and more opportunities for lumber, you know, even within public buildings and private buildings within the province. There's some really good work going around that. I'm going to let ADM Mayor fill in any gaps.
Thanks, Minister, Chair, Member. So specific to this initiative, it's a partnership with federal government, and it's part of their low carbon economy fund.
Fair enough.
And it's a 3-year project where we're going to be actually planting trees in some of the old wildfires that we've had where trees haven't come back as fast as we would like them to start sequestering carbon. So it's, Minister's correct, it's not about Franken trees. We're not changing the species. It's about enhancing reforestation on a land basis.
If you'll forgive me, I think that there's a little bit of hyperbole in the words around this. To develop an innovative program where, in fact, you're enhancing reforestation, which that's great. Enhance all you like. But I think to call that some sort of magical innovative program to enhance carbon sequestration, I think is a bit of a stretch. So let's move on to, now we're on, again, in the business plan, we're on page 19. And this is always a section I find very interesting in every ministry's business plan, the risks to achieving your outcomes. And I always find it interesting to see how these risks change from year to year. Because I would think that for the most part there's a lot of consistency for most of these. I mean, risks don't tend to, you know, fluctuate that much. But there's 2 specific mentions about disease outbreaks. The first, in the very first line, key strategic risks include uncertain and reduced market access. We've talked a little bit about that. Major disease and pest outbreaks, and then it goes on. And then about halfway down it says outbreaks of foodborne, livestock, or plant diseases and forest pests are a potential challenge for Alberta and pose a major risk to both industries and Albertans. Certainly agree with that, certainly acknowledge and recognize that that is one of the strategic risks, and it will always be a risk. And, you know, last year's tuberculosis outbreak, you know, certainly highlights that, because, I mean, that was a disease that, you know, for the most part, we thought we were largely TB-free. And these things can come out of the blue. I was in practice when BSE was first diagnosed, and we know what kind of damage that did to our livestock industry. I guess what my question is, Minister, is there's going to be a shift, and we talked about this a little bit before, that all of Alberta's veterinarians are going to now be trained at an expanded College of Veterinary Medicine in Calgary, starting in another year or 2. That college has shown itself to be very adept at training small animal urban veterinarians, and the percentage of mixed practitioners that come out of that college is significantly lower than the college in Saskatoon that we've supported for the last 54 years. So my question is very simple, Minister. If these are risks to our industry, where are the veterinarians going to come from that are going to look after these disease outbreaks?
You know, I'll let Dr. Lehman fill in some of those blanks there, but, you know, it's my understanding, talking to, you know, the veterinary school in Calgary, that the large amount of their graduates do go to rural Alberta.
Less than a quarter.
20%?
Less
Say
than
20%.
less than a quarter.
They, you know, so, you know, it continues to be, I think, a challenge, a lot of, not just veterinarian, but getting all kinds of professionals into rural Alberta. You know, there's opportunities, I think, you know, for the rural Alberta. There is within, you know, very short, distance from my own location, there's a lot, see there is large animal veterinarians. You know, it might be, no, without a doubt, I suspect there probably is some areas within the province that there is a shortage. You know, as for key strategic strategies within this ministry on recruiting and developing, you know, veterinary practices, you know, nothing in particular and I can point to as a line item, but, you know, making sure that we continue with our conversations with the veterinarian colleges to ensure that our large animal vets are there. I know, you know, some of our larger operations, the confined feeding operations, of course, have veterinarians and staff.
Yeah, no, and again, Minister, all of that I'm very familiar with. I guess, you know, what I'm concerned with is, for example, the tuberculosis response was led by Alberta veterinarians, and a large measure of the veterinarians that led that response were trained at the WCVM in Saskatoon. And I have a significant concern that we, as a livestock producing jurisdiction, are going to be left vulnerable. But let's move on. Let's move away from that topic. In the estimates on page 40, line item 7, and Minister, you've mentioned this already in your opening remarks. You talked about the increase from last year under the Climate Leadership Plan, increase in last year's budget from 8.4 million to some 41.6 million this year. And that was to fund specific programs with regards to energy efficiency for farms and for agricultural operations. Now, this is the same question I asked to the Minister of Seniors, and that is, how are we going to measure what we're getting for that $41.6 million that we're spending? I mean, we can certainly measure the number of solar panels or the number of, you know, gizmos that we buy that can be bought with that to reduce energy consumption. But do we know what the current level of energy consumption is? Are there going to be any energy audits done on these agricultural facilities before installing these energy-saving devices? Because that is part of what is being done in the seniors ministry, so they at least have a baseline. Are we going to establish a baseline? And if we're not establishing a baseline, how do we know whether the $41.6 million that's being spent is in fact reducing energy consumption and greenhouse gas emissions? And are we going to be able to quantify by how much that reduction is?
Thank you, member, for that. That's an excellent question. So, you know, there's some work being done around the Farm Stewardship Center out of Lethbridge. It was a center that we repurposed to be able to continue working with industry on their efficiencies. And, you know, we have had over the years environmental not a survey, environmental resource tools for farming operations that they can use to evaluate their own operations. You know, that's been highly successful and be able to those operations to be able to find those efficiencies. Not just energy or environmental efficiencies, but the economic benefits that go towards that goes a long ways as well. So we have, you know, opportunities within, like I say, the Stewardship Center within Lethbridge to be able to gauge how much success this is, and working with other ministries, the Climate Change Office, the Ministry of Environment and Parks, to continue that work.
Okay. Well, Minister, I mean, if within the parameters of the business plan, if there could be some development of some measurables or some actual, you know, numbers. For example, even in the infrastructure ministry, there's a number which was strangely deleted from this year's business plan in terms of the amount of GHG emissions per square meter of office space leased by Alberta Infrastructure, and that at least gives you a tangible measurement. And I mean, acknowledge that we're dealing with farmers that have private facilities and that sort of thing. My final question, Minister, relates to page 15 of the business plan in outcome number 1 with regards to the competitiveness of Alberta's agriculture and forest industries. There was talk in last year's business plan about the development of an Alberta Wood Charter initiative. Now, that's been carried forward into this year's business plan, so I'm interested in hearing from you what forward progress has been made on this, and where are we at with the development of this wood charter?
So the Alberta Wood Charter is, you know, in collaboration and cooperation with industry to be able to promote more wood products.
Hesitate to
within.
interrupt. We'll now go to the government caucus. Emily